Good morning, everybody. Late morning. So anyway, I posted a video yesterday about this car's problems with the fuel system, evidently. So you guys all had a lot of good suggestions, so I'm letting it warm up now, and we're going to go through those and try them out and see what we get with this. This is kind of a mystery. So just to recap real quick, this car has had a lean burnectomy, but it still didn't run very well. It seemed like it was running out of gas, and I was able to get out here in the driveway and also duplicate that just by revving the engine up to about 2,000 RPMs. It would conk out and die. So let's go ahead and see if we can replicate this. It's been warming up for a few minutes. It should be good to go. The wasps are mad at me for disturbing their habitat, but I don't care. It's come up a little bit. There we go. All right, so we're just going to turn the engine right off, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go clamp off this return line as suggested at the filter up here. Okay, this loop of line right here, this one is the return line, and you can see down under here, I'll zoom in a little bit, but it attaches to the top of the fuel filter, the inline fuel filter, and its job is to theoretically help prevent things like vapor lock and stuff because of the fuel temperatures under the hood. So it's kind of conducts, it's supposed to be like a metered orifice in there, and it conducts vapor, and they say maybe excessive fuel pressure, which I doubt, but that's supposed to happen. Well, those things could, you know, as y'all mentioned, they can go bad, or they could be poorly designed or something going on with that. So let's, you know, we don't want to throw parts at this. You know, people are going to say, well, it could be a fuel pump, it could be this, could be that. When you start, that's all good ideas, but when you start saying could be, you might as well just get your wallet out and start thumbing out the cash, because you don't know whether it is or not. So we have to take things out of the loop. So let's do that now. Okay then, that's clamped off. Hopefully that'll stay out of the fan. So we'll go in here and restart the engine and let it recover a little bit and give it another test here. Boy, this seat be getting hot in here. Nope, wasn't it. It was a good idea, but that's not it. So we can eliminate the fuel filter return function is the issue. Okay, so we'll move on to something else. Okay, so the next thing to try, the next suggestion was to make sure that the tank is not being atmospherically plugged. In other words, make sure that the vented cap, or I don't know that this one has a vented cap on, I guess it does, but we'll see. But just to make sure that it is vented, and it's, like I said, I don't know that that's the way this tank works, because I thought that you couldn't have a vented tank cap anymore. But we're going to pull the cap just to make sure that that's not causing a problem. So it's back here. Looks like the original, because it's still attached to the car. So let's just unscrew that. Hadn't been off in a while. The thinking behind this, yeah, I guess it's a pressure cap. I guess it is of some sort. But I guess the thinking here is that, you know, you could have you could have an airlock in it. In other words, that as the engine draws fuel from the tank, there has to be air go into the tanks from someplace. And that came through the charcoal canister up here. Maybe I'm incorrect. I need to study that a little bit. We can look at a vacuum diagram, I guess, and see. You got what's called a vapor canister. You got 2 to the carburetor, 1 to the fuel tank out of the canister, and of course so that's your canister here, and then you have one that's, you should have a plastic line going, so that's it right there. It's not plastic, actually. That one was looping out and going right down there. That metal one, that's the one there. So okay, start it up again, let it recover, see if we get any difference. This is live. Here we go. And it's going dead right now. All right. Okay, guys, good guesses so far, good suggestions, but neither of those were it. So now, when you hear this thing, when it sounds like the engine's, like I'm revving it up and then it goes like the engine speed's going back down, it's doing that itself. That's me. I'm keeping my foot just straight on the gas at a certain spot, so it's just run out of gas, I guess. So it's not running, it's not like, whatever this issue is not terrible yet, but I have a feeling, I just have a feeling that it's going to be back there, because like I said, somebody said they went through the carburetor and they went through the fuel filter and all that. Get out of here. Get the hell out of here. I guess we're going to have a wasp killing session here. Maybe I'll do that now. Assert my authority here. Alright, we'll move forward, guys. Let's continue. Welcome to the South. So I got this car up and down up on the jack and the jack stand, and so we can get under it and take a look at things. So I've been under this, slid under it and looked at the fuel lines and stuff, and I'll show you what we are looking at. If you get under the back here, remember this is a northern car, and it's a little bit crusty, not too bad for a northern car, I guess, but a little bit. So I'm trying to keep on top of it with the fluid film and stuff. But the only thing I noticed initially is I noticed this tank looks like it may or may not be seeping some fuel out. It's a little, I just can't remember if that's something I did with a fluid film or not. I don't think so. So that's something to remember. But when we get under here and look, we have to kind of turn around. I'm going to set you guys down for a second until I get all the way under here. Hopefully I don't be pushing a button on this thing. I don't need to. So anyway, you get a light on you. We look back here at the back. This is the differential, and then you've got the tank here, and you have 3 lines coming out of this tank up there. You can kind of see them. There's a fuel supply, which is probably the one in the middle, and then you have a return from the filter, and then you have a vent, which is that small one there to the left, and then they just come along here, and they come along the frame, and they start, well, actually they go over the frame right there, and they proceed along the outside up towards the front. And I've been looking for, look like crack lines or anything that looks damp that's not fluid film, and I don't see anything at all going on back here. The only thing I did notice is that somebody's done something back here. They've messed with these wires that go to the fuel sending unit, so that concerns me, because that could be something they've taken apart, who knows. But otherwise, this is a shield here, by the way, so I guess if something, if the 7 1/4 inch differential explodes, it won't go through the gas tank. But it didn't look to me like the lines have ever been apart back here, and they don't look rotten. So let me get out here again. That's Buzz in the background you're hearing. He's back in action today. So yeah. Anyway, these lines come up right through here. They just kind of come along the frame, and I just don't see them leaking. You know, that's the problem with metal fuel lines, is they can have a pinhole anywhere, but they just come along the frame. We can take a look up here. It's just not terribly interesting, but anyway, you see here they just run along here, and I've been looking to see if I see anything. Well, I'll tell you what, like I said, this is fluid filament on them, so they're a little bit wet looking, but I've been mainly trying to pay attention to see if I smell anything, and I don't smell any fuel leaks at all back here. And then right here's another potential trouble spot, which is right up here. For whatever reason, they terminate the metal line and they go to these sections of rubber line, but again, they look good. Seem much worse. I don't smell anything. I don't see anything dripping. Just a little bit of film on them where I put that on it. Yes, there is a jack stand. You guys have gotten on to me before about not using a jack stand, but I use jack stands all the time. And you see those clamps right there on those lines, those kind of squeeze clamps. I got a name for them, but anyway, they're just those assembly line clamps. You can reproduce those things if you wanted to. I don't know why, but you can tell the lines have never been off of it, because you have to break those things apart to get them out. So now, oh boy, this car doesn't have much room under here. I was afraid of that, but I was trying to look and see how to get to the fuel pump on this thing. I see me a wasp flying around again. Fuel pump is right up in there, and somehow or another, see there, bastard, going in my alternator. So I'm gonna have to see how to get in there to that. I'm gonna just kill that wasp again. Yes. Let's see. Oh boy, this is gonna be fun. There's the fuel filter. Good grief. Picked a nice one to work on, didn't I? Alright, well, let me see what I can do here. So actually, I got looking at this, and this makes this a little bit easier for me, because the fuel inlet on this is actually that guy right there. Comes up on the frame and then loops back down to the intake to the fuel pump, the inlet to the fuel pump. And this thing has got a covering over it, and it's got some tape action going, which I don't think means anything, but that's a little bit better. But I'm still gonna have to take this stuff apart, because I gotta get that filter off there and then see what's up, because we're gonna need to take the filter off and check it, and then we're gonna have to just see what kind of fuel flow we can get from the tank back there. So all right. I'll do that. I'll do it now. I was bending over here, undoing this piece of tape here that was on the end of that line, and pulling that whatchamacallit, that shielding back, that little conduit stuff they put over it, which looks factory. And I just got a whiff of gas, which I shouldn't have gotten. I thought it was coming out of the charcoal canister there. It's not, that I can tell. But if I take this stuff and put it up to my nose, it smells like gas. This tape smells like gas, and it shouldn't smell like gas, because that's not a pressure line. That's the line that comes out of the tank. This is suck only, not push, suck. So that shouldn't be doing that. So I'm going to inspect that very carefully. Sure does. Smells like fresh gas. Why would that be doing that? That's why you look close, guys. You don't. You stay on your side. We won't have. Yeah, we're gonna have a problem, I see. Yeah. There's a sick buzz on you. So anyway. Freaking bees. So anyway, that's why you gotta look close at stuff, guys. Don't just assume things like, you know, fuel pumps and stuff. So I can get my strong light out here. We're gonna look at that line. Maybe we can take it off. Okay, so I have put together an alternative fuel supply here. I took off the inlet supply line to the fuel pump from the hard line of the car, which is right what you're looking at right there. So it's disconnected now, and run a new line down to an alternative fuel source, which is this pop bottle that's about half full or so with fresh gasoline, a line running into it. So this is going to be very helpful, because we're going to run the car now again, and we're going to see whether bypassing the fuel tank and the fuel lines to the back of the car make any difference in our symptoms. So we'll do that, and then if they do, we know we got problems back there. If it does not, we know that our problem is from here up. So, and I know, you know, not being rude or mean or anything, but I know you guys like to say it sounds like this and it sounds like that. That's repair shops. They don't ever go by sounds like. They do the diagnosis and rule things out. If they didn't, they wouldn't be in business very long. So, you know, and I think some people kind of like to, you know, they say, well, we can't afford to go to Las Vegas or things like that and gamble, so let's just try this and let's try that and let's try this. And, hey, man, we'll get lucky. It's easier just to try things than it is to think, but it's not the way I do it. So let's fire this puppy back up again and see what we get. You getting bored of watching me start this car again? You gotta be quick about that. This thing is gulping gas. Wow. Okay. That's all you need to know. That was quick and easy. And it's not out of gas. So it did the exact same thing. Stupid wasp. The exact same thing, bypassing the gas tank. So we know that it's not the gas tank. Definitively. So hey, you guys that say it sounds like the fuel pump, maybe so. Well, let's continue. Gotta do more diagnosis and checking. Alright then, we'll update. So I pulled the filter off. This is it. This is the inlet. This is the outlet. This is the return to the tank. It's got a little small metered orifice in there, and it was not clogged up. It wasn't the fuel filter. And then I pulled the line off that goes from the bottom of the fuel pump there. This is the inlet, and this is the end that goes to the line off the car, and it doesn't look great. It's got cracks at the end of it. You can see there, maybe here, and the clamp wasn't the tightest either. It had a worm drive clamp on it on that end. But I don't know, guys. I run out of stuff to check here. It's not the filter, it's not the line, it's not the tank, it's not the line from the tank. Then it only leaves us two things, and that's the fuel pump and the carburetor. And that fuel pump is wet a little bit around the perimeter of it, but it's buried under that alternator, so I'm going to have to pull this alternator to get to it and look at it further, I guess. So I think I'm going to get cleaned up and go run into town and get some lunch. I'm going to pick up a fuel pump and a new filter, and we're going to come back before we take that pump off. We're going to maybe do another little test on it. But the only other thing could be, like I said, the float level of the carburetor could be low, but I set that. I mean, I'm sure I did, so I don't see that being, you know, if this was a big block running 5,000 RPM, I could envision it possibly running the bowl drive, but two barrel on a 318, I don't think so. But anyway, we're not going to leave any stone unturned, so we'll definitely get back here and we'll check things further. You know, I'm not, like I said, I'm not a person that likes to replace things, just like I've already said, just to be replacing it. But that fuel pump looks grimy and greasy, so it's probably the original, and I have no problem with that, except that I'm just a little bit concerned that grimy and greasy 32-year-old fuel pumps, 31-year-old fuel pumps, you more or less say condition unknown. But I don't know, we'll see what happens. But we'll go further with this, keep on digging. Okay, next up I thought we'd run another test here, and this is sort of unrelated, I guess, to anything up here, but I've just got curious about how well this tank back there at the back is going to supply fuel, and I just want to either rule out or confirm that there may be a problem with that. So what I've done is I've put my old trusty electric inline pump that I don't use for anything except this type of stuff, connected it to the output from the frame there, so we're just bypassing the car's pump and all that. We're just sucking directly out of the tank here. So I'm going to run that thing a little while, and we're going to see what kind of volume, I guess you could say, we'll get off of that. So let's give her a whirl. Finger's getting hot. Alright, well, I would say, suffice to say that that's a pretty good bit of volume. I don't see that ever being a restriction, so I think we can just rule out that the tank has any kind of problem or the lines back to the back. So I think we can just put that to bed. And so I think what I'm going to do now is I'm going to run another test. I've got to swap my lines all around again, but what I'm going to do this time is I've got one of those cheapo clear inline filters, and I'm going to configure this thing again where I can loop that into not exactly where the original filter goes, but just in line with the fuel supply, and we'll run this car again and we'll look and see what the filter's doing when this thing tries to stall. If it tries to stall. Hey, if we're lucky, it'll stop acting up, but I don't think we're going to be lucky. Alright guys, I've got this thing temporarily set up with one of these see-through filters, and so I thought we would run this and put it through its test procedure we're all familiar with at this point, and see what this filter looks like. I'm going to start it up briefly and then I'll turn it back off right away, just make sure it don't have any leaks, and if it all looks good we'll let it run and do its thing. Oop, got a rag in here. All right. Come on. Okay, I didn't turn it off and the fuel filter is full. So okay then, that's interesting. Let's do it again. Oh, okay, next stop's gonna be the carburetor. So that's it. That's enlightening. I'm glad I did this video. It's a lot of work. That was HEW, you know what, getting all those lines in there to show you kind of where we're talking about here. Situated so that it didn't get into the fan or anything. But that's enlightening, because you know we're learning something here, guys, because it's important to diagnose. So you have to go through these steps. See, you would have put a fuel pump on here and that likely wouldn't have been it, because you have a fuel filter that's full, yet the engine stalled. So we've tested the car itself, its lines, and we've ensured that the car's not having problems, you know, in the tank. So we've learned a lot here, really, about diagnosis. It's just, you know, you can either be a diagnostician or you can be a parts replacer. See, there's likely I would have put, even though that fuel pump rather, looks weird, you know, sketchy and old, you know, we see that's not a basis to replace it. So we really need to do one more test on this, and I think I'm gonna get my spark tester out, and I'm gonna put it on one of these spark plugs, and we're gonna check and see if we're losing spark when that happens, because you have to cover all the bases, all the bases. All right, guys, I got the spark checker on here, so it's kind of hard to see, but let's see what happens when we stress this thing again. Okay, you guys are gonna have to tell me what happens here. I gotta watch this back and see myself. So then, I am taking the top off this carburetor, and I've not run this car since the last time it stalled there on camera. So we're gonna see what's going on. Whether it's got any gas in it, or it's got gas, or it doesn't, or what, we don't know. If you told me 15 years ago I'd be taking the top off a carburetor with the engine still warm, I'd laugh at you, but here I am. Let me get that other screw picked out of there. This has been an all-day thing on this, but you know, again, it's important to know what's up, I guess. Oh, that's what I thought. That's what I thought. That's what I was afraid of. Well, you have to take you over there, but you can see that carburetor, shaky camera, is full up to the brim of gas. So floats are at the top. I don't see anything strange going on there. But this thing is just not happy for some reason. Something's up here. I guess before I condemn this thing, I'm going to run it, check the spark one more time again, even further. But past that, all I can say is it's got a bad carburetor. And I don't know what could be going on in that carburetor for it to do that, but I don't know. You know, there aren't many Holley 2280 experts out here, and I don't claim to be one. I'm not one. But, you know, the thing doesn't have anything in there except just main jets and the main circuit like any other carburetor. The only thing that's got that's really any much different is it's got these power pistons or power valves. I don't know what you would call them exactly. I mean, I know what they're called, but these things here, and that's the accelerator pump there, that blue deal, and then these are power pistons. I'm going to call them power pistons. And excuse me, I had to scratch my nose there. This is what I was going through on this thing with the top off of it, was that this is the mechanical power piston over here, and then this is the vacuum operated power piston. And so appear to work just fine. Well, that one's, it's mechanically operated, so it's not going to do anything, but I don't get it, because this carburetor, this is the very same carburetor that was on that 71 Plymouth originally. When I put the engine in it and ran it the first few hundred miles, it used this carburetor. It was exactly the same, except I've replaced the float in it, because the float on that one was swollen up a little bit and stuck occasionally down. But that's the only problem I ever had out of that carburetor. But it ran good. I don't remember this carburetor having any kind of issues like this. So, So what do you say when the engine that just dies like that, and it's got a full carburetor? And the thing about it is, what's strange about this is, thinking back on it, you know, you can actually drive it out of that. I guess I kind of neglected to say that, but you know, you can, now right here it's just cutting off, but you know, if you go down the driveway sometimes down the road, I noticed that before, that you could, you know, if you screwed with it, you could get it to take off and go again, and it'd go like gang, well, for wherever it can. You know, it run, take off and go. So I don't know what that is. That's, I mean, I can theorize a lot, but I think I'm gonna leave the top off that carburetor and just cover that for the night, because I need to. Those power pistons, the only thing about those things, they can be interchanged, and if you swap them out, then neither of them work right. But they're not sticking. I mean, I took care to build this carburetor, so I guess I could have done this step first, but like I said, this is kind of an educational video more than anything. It's educating me that I sure don't like Holly carburetor. Now, I'm not saying that's what it is. This thing could have an ignition problem. Sure could. I don't rule anything out, because that's a used distributor. And it looked like it had spark when it was shutting down there, but the thing about it is it does not feel like that, because, you know, when, well, I say that, I don't know. I'm just too unsure right now, because you can sit there and hold it at one speed, and you can sense it starting to slow down a little bit, and then, you know, you just give it gas, and it just kind of doesn't build up any. It just kind of stays where it's at, and you're giving it a little bit more gas and a little bit more gas, and it's not doing anything. Then all of a sudden, it's boom, there it goes down. So this is weird. It's a weird problem. But I tell you what, no matter what turns out to be actually wrong with it, I'm just thankful that it's not anything to do with that gas tank. I didn't look forward to taking that thing out, dealing with those old lines back there. So, okay, guys, this video is getting a little bit long, so we're going to wrap this one up here, and we'll do another video, and hopefully that'll be the fix video. And we're going to do a last video about this lean burn delete, but before I do that, I got to make sure I did it correctly. So I didn't flub something up here causing all this. So anyway, but we'll do that at some point soon. Thanks for watching. I'm letting this car warm up on the fast idle. I'm just going to let it run on this just to see if it does anything again. Put the carburetor back together. You notice it'll run on the choke like that and never seems to try to stall or anything. But folks been throwing some ideas out. But no, so far we haven't found a smoking gun yet. One thing I did do is I lowered the float setting because it kind of looked like the float was a little high. I thought I'd set that right. This time, instead of just trying to really push it, I'm just going to try to ease up a little bit on it. See, I saved it right there. Tried to do it and I saved it. Alright, so there we go. I think that's pretty much our diagnosis. We'll go ahead and turn it off. Do that a little bit more. Okay, well, that's pretty much it. So you may ask, what is it? Well, it is, I thought about this last night. I tend to think about problems like this when I'm going to sleep. And so when I was trying to fall asleep last night, I thought of this test. And what the test just was, you know, to see if you could save the engine and keep it running, you know, by pumping the accelerator. Because every time you pump the accelerator, it gives you some accelerator pump shot, so which means it introduces fuel through the accelerator pump circuit and sprays fuel down in there, and it's kind of saving it from dying, you know, because I wanted to try to, you know, think through this and make sure I didn't have a, you know, ignition problem that's just killing it. Now that's not it, because if it was ignition, it would have just quit and there would have been no saving it if you pump the gas. But since I pumped the gas, I kind of think of that as sort of a workaround, you know. If you got problems in the main circuit of the carburetor, which this one evidently does, there's something wrong with the carburetor. That's just the bottom line. So that's why it doesn't act up on the choke. See, because the choke is, at least it never has, the choke is sort of a band-aid, I guess you could say. In other words, you're doing things to artificially richen up the mixture and give it more gas. And that's why you can, like I said, that's why you can save the engine from just stalling completely. So what it did when I tried to stall right there a few times, just holding my foot on the gas, I let off of it and pumped it, see, and that's kind of, you know, you could get it to stay running. So that's just it. It's got a bad carburetor, and that's crazy because, well, it's not crazy. These cars are defined by bad carburetors, and carburetors don't idle, and carburetors don't run right. It's just, you know, it is what it is. So at least I've narrowed it down now, and I ain't gonna spend a bunch of money on things I didn't need to spend money on. So now I got to decide what I'm gonna do to fix this, because I got a couple options. So I'm gonna have to get on with it and figure out what to do. But I need to tell you a story real quick. It was kind of humorous. Way back when I was about 20 years old or so, I had a 1982 Chevy Citation hatchback, 4-door hatchback. It was mint green. It had like a gray vinyl interior, and it was a V6 with a 4-speed. It was a real nice car to drive. It wasn't bad at all. Sounded good. But it had one of those I think that had the Varijet, little small 2-barrel Varijet, Rochester Varijet carburetor, and it was a feedback carburetor also, computer controlled. And back then I wasn't, you know, immersed in all this. I just drove cars and then didn't try to understand how they worked or anything like that. I just got in it and drove, started driving. So anyway, I drove that car around, and car just ran terrible. It was not the only one that ever did this, but that car had whatever's wrong with this carburetor, in like about 2 or 3 times as worse, because once it got warmed up, you could not hold your foot on the gas without it just going down to nothing. Just blah, 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 blah. And what you had to do is, I think I've told this story, but if not, it's funny, man. You had to take you guys that like the pedal pump and stuff, you would have loved that, because you had to take your foot and literally pump the accelerator pedal to move down the highway. If you want to go 55 miles an hour, you pumped it, and then if you want to go faster, you had to keep on pumping it. So basically what was wrong with the carburetor was the main circuit was just about non-functional. You know, the main circuit of the carburetor is just passageways that conduct fuel into the bore of the carburetor, you know, at speeds above idle. So anyway, that one is something screwed up with that carburetor big time. So my buddy, I sold that car to my buddy back then, and he drove it for a while, and I used to tease him. I said, "Have you been pumping that accelerator?" And he said, "Yeah." And he said, "You don't go otherwise." And that's the way it was. It was like one of those little bicycle pumps that you had to put your foot on and pump it. That's exactly the way that car was. So anyway, that's it. Bottom line, it's got a bad carburetor, and this carburetor was not. This was an original carburetor off of a truck back then, and I just rebuilt it once back then and rebuilt it again, and it's never been through a parts that I can tell. Never been through a parts rebuilder, so I don't know what happened to it, but. I know I'm tired of messing with it. Piece of shit. So, I guess I'm going to have to take drastic action here. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope this has been kind of interesting to you. See you next time. Okay, so you may say, what did you do to get that to run so much better? Hopefully. I haven't driven it yet, but it's not stalling. It doesn't appear to be. So I'm about to show you. Alright then, so what I did was I ended up swapping out carburetors. I went to the junkyard and dug out another one of those old Holly 2280 carburetors. You notice it's got a little label sort of on the front right there. You can tell which one is which. A little part number label right there somewhere. And this is the one that, even though I've swapped on a little cover over from the junker carburetor, this is the one I've been trying to mess with to get to work right, and it just didn't want to work. So it seems to be. I don't know if I've something wrong with it or I built it wrong. It could be either. You know, nearly 50 years old, and I just do stuff wrong sometimes. So that one, that one, all the care and attention to detail that I spent on this one for it not to work right, I didn't do any of that on that one. I disassembled it. I made sure to keep everything, like the two power pistons, segregated so I knew which was which went on which side. I didn't even change the accelerator pump. I used the original. I used the brown one that came from Holly, and I used the original float. I just put a new needle and seat in it and cleaned it and put some new gaskets in it, and that's it. That's all I was going to do to it. We're at zero tolerance now, so this thing either has to work right or it's off. It's gone. So that's the way it is. So this one, I don't know what happened to this one, if it was me happened to it or it happened to it, but it's funny because these carburetors, this is no interest to anybody except me probably, but these carburetors, you look on here, you got a couple part numbers. It's got a Holly list number R493, that's like a 83, 84, 318 carburetor with no lean burn and all that stuff, and then it's got the Mopar part number, which in this case is 4287053, and then it's got a date code at the bottom of 1004. And these are twins separated at birth because they're the exact same carburetor off the exact same thing. And I've managed to bring them together late in life to celebrate the experience of being together again. But anyway, this one was built the 100th day of 84, and that one was built like the 65th day of 84. So it's that one's a little bit newer or older, I guess. So anyway, I'm going to slap the air cleaner on this thing and take it for a couple rips up and down the driveway, and then I've got to put if everything's okay, and maybe even if everything's not okay, I'm going to put my fuel lines back together and go from there. And so the 4-barrel thing is maybe in the future at some point. I got to get a couple more pieces together. We'll see how this thing runs. If it gives me any more problems, we're going to speed up that. That's eventually what I'm going to do, but I got to get some linkage and all that for it, so to make it so it will all work correctly. But anyway, I'm happy with these results so far, and I'm not happy with Holly carburetors. That's the last one I'm going to fool with, so this is it. So we'll see if it works right. I hope it does, but that's what seems to fix it. We'll see. I jammed that air cleaner back on there. I ain't even hooked all the stuff up to it yet. I've had it off and on so many times I can just about do it in my sleep. But I just made sure that my temporary test fuel filter and lines and stuff are not gonna get where they're not supposed to be. So we'll take it for a couple rips up and down the driveway. What this thing was doing, like I said, it was take off and it just so. Fixed. Can't do that much. It's fixed. Excellent. That's all I needed to see. yeah, that's fixed. Yeah, I spun all the way down the driveway. That never does that before. So, excellent. Excellent. So, our fix was to replace the carburetor. And let me just summarize this video by saying that the reason I went through all this is a long video to go through, but it's just kind of an educational tool, I think, you know, to not assume things when you're working on a car, something like this, because people, when I was asking about this, you know, I didn't know either. I assumed the same thing a lot of people assume, that we had a fuel filter problem or a fuel pump problem or a problem in the gas tank or something like that. So it turned out to be none of that. So it might have been of my making, but either or, that's what you have to do to determine exactly what's going on with something like this. Because like I said, if you're gonna run a shop or something, which I know not all of us are, but if you're in the business to repair cars, you can't guess at it. So hopefully you guys that deal with things like this, it'll give you some ways to fault isolate things and get stuff like this running good. So it seems to be running quite well. So we will go back in there and just kind of button things up for once and for all and put some miles on it, see how it acts. And we'll do a video on the HEI also. Thanks for watching, folks. See ya